Get the unmissable news stories of the day.
This is the Beijing Hour.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, coming to you live from the Chinese capital. On today's program, a draft of China's next five-year plan has outlined several economic and social development targets through 2030. China's latest government work report says the country will further broaden market access and open up additional sectors. The Chinese foreign minister has spoken with some of his counterparts in the Gulf region regarding the fighting in Iran. In business, China's recorded robust growth numbers through the first 2 months of the year. In sports, Team China earns a comeback victory in AFC Women's Asian Cup qualifying. In culture and entertainment, a Chinese hit movie is boosting tourism in the Xinjiang region. Now today's top stories. The draft outline of China's 15th five-year plan for national economic and social development sets key targets through 2030. A primary goal is boosting the country's annual grain production capacity to approximately 725 million metric tons. This year's government work report emphasizes that agriculture, rural areas, and residents must remain the top priority. For 2026, this means a firm focus on grain production, balancing output and capacity, conservation and production, and expanding yields alongside income growth. It calls for regular targeted assistance to consolidate poverty alleviation gains and prevent any large-scale return to poverty. It'll continue to advance rural reform and development. A key specific measure is conducting province-wide trials to extend rural land contracts by another 30 years once the current second-round contracts expire. The Chinese agriculture minister says seeds remain one of the key areas of the country's agricultural work. Han Jun made the remarks on the sidelines of the annual session of the national legislature. He said China strives to achieve sci-tech self-reliance in the seed industry to ensure national food security.
Seed is like the chip in agriculture sector. After years of efforts, especially since 2021, we implemented the seed rejuvenation campaign. Now, the Chinese grains are mainly sowing the Chinese seeds for vegetables and aquatic products. Basically, we can ensure self-sufficiency.
Han said the achievements include a seed library, the first smart seed breeding robot, and the cultivation of high-yielding, disaster-proven seed varieties. And he added that the next step is to implement a seed rejuvenation plan.
And in the next step, we are going to implement that seed rejuvenation plan in order to make breakthroughs in the varieties of seeds so that we can be independent and the seed industry will be within our control and we can have efficient iteration of the seeds.
National People's Congress Deputy Chen Shirong is a farmer from Guangdong Province. Government departments have responded swiftly to his calls for agricultural innovation. Li Jiaming has more.
Bringing homegrown rice to China's capital Beijing during the political season. Mr. Chen Shirong is a legislator who works in the agriculture sector. Around 10 years ago, he quit the job in city as a foreign trader and returned home to become a rice farmer.
The number one central document has focused on agriculture, rural areas, and farmers for 22 consecutive years. Back in 2014, seeing how much the country valued the agricultural sector, I firmly resolved to return home and start my own business.
Earlier, CGTN traveled to Mr. Chen's hometown, Jiangmen City, in southern China's Guangdong Province. Rather than relying on traditional experience, his farming approach draws heavily on expertise and modern agriculture technology. The proficiency of modern farming tools allows 300 hectares of rice fields to be managed by just a handful of people. He and his wife learned to design rice breeding tracks, operate drones to spray pesticides, and apply fertilizers.
Before installing the equipment, we needed at least 33 workers every day. I myself drove to 3 neighboring towns to hire help, and still struggled during peak season. Now, just 5 or 6 people can run the entire seedling base.
Elected as an NPC deputy, his vision extends beyond the fields, yet remains closely tied to rural affairs.
With population aging, fewer people are engaged in grain farming. We must empower modern agriculture with new productive forces to ensure its sustainable development.
As a legislator, he found it rewarding to see his submitted motions included in China's government work report.
Last year, when I attended the 2 sessions, I proposed promoting ecological circular agriculture integrating planting and breeding to achieve multiple harvests. This year's government work report explicitly mentions increasing both yield and quality and producing more high-quality agricultural products.
In Beijing, the suggestions he collected from his hometown received swift responses from China's ministries.
I just received a call from the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs regarding my agricultural proposals raised during yesterday's panel discussion. This morning, they promptly responded to us deputies over the phone, providing strong support for the development of agriculture, rural areas, and farmers at the grassroots level.
Caring about the fields, thinking like a farmer, and aspiring for greater goals. Chen Shirong hopes his active role as an NPC deputy will bring more attention to farming and more benefits to farmers.
That was Li Jiaming reporting. And with more, Zheng Shi spoke to Chu Cheng, a fellow from the Belt and Road Research Center at Minzu University of China. Chu said that China's new grain output target reflects strategic foresight amid climate risk and global uncertainties.
China has set a higher target for its comprehensive grain production capacity, aiming for an annual output of over 700 million tons by 2030. Why this new target?
Actually, you have to understand, China is a really large country. Look, we have 1.4 billion of population, so you can guess the annual consumption of food is massive. And also, China has been building its modernized society, which means people's living standard need to be, further improved, which means we're producing all the crops, not only for, people, but also we're going to produce it for the livestock. So we're going to need the soybean, we're going to need the corn, just for the feed of the animals, so we can have more proteins as a better food. But the problem is that how can we afford to do so with our current technology and the stock of the farmable land? So this can be a challenge, and that's the reason why we're focusing on the total and the sheer providence of all the food. And plus, we've been facing a really turbulent world. Just take a look at the current geopolitical conflicts, and all the not only the oil and the gases, but also a lot of the food supplies and the routes has been interrupted. And meanwhile, I think the weather and climate change can also be a great challenge. If I take a look at all the extreme weather event happening currently, like the flood, like the drought, and also they've been eating up lots of share of the global food supplies. So if you walk in the shoes of China, when you want to provide a stability of the food and life for 1.4 billion population, to give them a higher standard of living, I think food will be the #1 priority for any given government in China.
Modern agriculture thrives on the back of technology, and to meet this lofty goal that you just mentioned, and to really maintain stability in this crucial sector for China, we need modern technology. In what way do you think agricultural technology, will serve that purpose in the next 5-year period?
Actually, in China, we actually have one foundation and 2 branches. This is our strategy. So basically, you're going to have fundamental agriculture technology and develop in the DNA, develop in the fertilizer, develop in the chemical industry, and all that to support 2 branches. Number 1 is about farmland, and number 2 is about our seed. So what does that even mean? I think everybody would see the better seed. For example, in China, we used to like a lot of basic, crops like rice. But until Dr. Yuan Longping has been invented the hybrid rice, and then this excellent, fabulous seed has been booming China's productions for per unit rices, and that solved the fundamental problem. The second is about the soils. How much can you produce produce per unit of farmland, I think soil will make a say. So that's a reason why you need all the kind of technology and fertilizers, the chemical industries to help you to fertilize the soils. And meanwhile, we're going to need some other new generation of technology like the smart machines for the combined harvesters or the plantation of the seeds machines. And meanwhile, in China, we have the low altitude economy, which means we're going to plus the drones with a satellite and also in the between all kinds of aviation tools, not for the military purpose, but for how we can smartly, monitor the weather, monitor all the kind of the fertilizers and the growth and the weathers, so we can allow this crop to grow in a better way and to produce more food, not only in China, but also serve the whole world market to stabilize the world food supply chain.
That was Chu Cheng, a fellow from the Belt and Road Research Center at Minzu University of China. At the start of the year, China rolled out a nationwide plan to promote green consumption, including expanding the supply of eco-friendly agricultural products. On the outskirts of Beijing, a quiet transformation is unfolding inside the region's greenhouses. Farmers who once focused on high yields are now thinking differently. Here's Qi Zhi on the people behind this change, where greener tomatoes are beginning to take root.
In Beijing's Pinggu district, Wang Jing'e's family has farmed this land for more than 3 decades.
In the mornings, people come to pick their own tomatoes, and others place orders for pickup. Our tomatoes taste fantastic. Good wine needs no bush. Once you try them, you'll be back for more. We have lots of repeat customers.
She just got off the phone with a regular customer. But as usual, her tomatoes are in short supply. Wang says the secret isn't just hard work, it's smarter, greener farming.
We precisely control the water and fertilizer now. In the past, we'd overwater and overfertilize just to maximize yields, and it affected the taste. Now we use organic fertilizers, chicken and sheep manure.
Her customers come from all over Beijing. No matter how far they live, they're willing to make the trip. This green shift is also taking shape in nearby laboratories. At the Beijing Jinhua Agricultural Science and Technology Innovation Center, manager Teng Yunfei is working on tomatoes that look nothing like Wang's, including a deep purple, almost black variety bred as much for function as for flavor. Teng says her team is combining advanced techniques from abroad to better fit local growing conditions.
We aim to develop a cultivation model more suitable for local conditions in China, integrating advanced foreign techniques like targeted prevention and efficient management into our own domestic systems.
These future varieties may take years to reach farmers like Wang, but the research happening today is laying the foundation for tomorrow. Dr. Muhammad Khalid, a postdoctoral researcher from Pakistan, also works at the center. He demonstrates fruits grown on vertical shelves using just the right amount of water and no pesticides. He's noticed a shift in Chinese consumer behavior.
People are more conscious about the nutritious food and the food safety. They can get all these from paying the high cost, because this production is specially considered as a premium product, and the consumer are willing to pay the premium product for their health.
Political advisor Wang Chuanxi from Lanling County in Shandong Province has been watching this transformation closely. Having worked on rural revitalization for years, he believes that green food is worth the premium.
Green food costs more to produce, but its quality speaks for itself. As consumers recognize that quality, a higher price naturally follows. That's how the green premium emerges. In fact, green and organic foods are already gaining strong popularity. Their value isn't just economic, they also generate social and ecological benefits.
The work happening in greenhouses and laboratories today is shaping what ends up on people's tables tomorrow. For many consumers in Beijing, that means food that's not just affordable, but safer, more sustainable, and full of flavor. For the Beijing Hour, I'm Qi Zhi.
And coming up, China aims to broaden market access and open more sectors over the next 5 years.
Pulse Plus, a selection of the best podcasts in China, covering history, customs, music, literature, and in-depth dialogues. Find your way to a wealth of Chinese culture and thinking, all on Pulse Plus.
15 past the hour. According to the latest government work report, China will further broaden market access and open up additional sectors with a particular focus on services. Sectors including telecommunications, biotechnology, and wholly foreign-owned hospitals are slated for expanded opening up. In addition, new measures will be introduced to promote investment in China's digital economy and service trade. China has also highlighted its commitment to increasing imports while supporting domestic companies in their global expansion. The government pledged to position China as a premier destination for foreign investment, while emphasizing efforts to guide supply chains in expanding globally. The eastern city of Taicang, known as the hometown of German enterprises with 560 companies, continues to attract foreign investment. Wu Bin spoke with the first German firm to settle here to learn what prompted its latest investment.
This German entrepreneur is Erich Specker, the CEO and president of spring and stamping manufacturer Herr Liebers. He traveled from Germany to Taicang City in eastern China to announce the latest investment his company has made.
I'm here because we are signing a big investment contract. We've been decided to invest more money into this facility or in our facilities in China.
The investment is worth $20 million and it's the company's 12th investment in the city. Eric then takes me to a wall showing the company's history and points to a picture on the wall.
That here in 1993, that's where you started in China.
Absolutely right, correct. Yeah, 1993 is our foundation in China, in Taicang. We were the first foreign-owned company in Taicang a long time ago. One, very clearly, the strategic location of Taicang. Taicang has a port. Taicang is close to Shanghai. Secondly, I think when you make that decision, there's a lot of intuition going into that decision at the time. And one intuition was the welcoming atmosphere we received in Taicang. And thirdly, and that probably sounds funny, is pine trees. You know, pine trees, there are many pine trees in Taicang. And Ken Liebers is located deep in the Black Forest in Germany. And there are a lot of pine trees in the Black Forest. So the feeling of home when we came to Taicang was very strong, related to trees.
Now, after over 3 decades of development, the company has developed from just 6 employees to over 1,000 employees.
So this is one of the company's production centers. In 1993, the size of the factory was just about 400 square meters. And now it spans to 50,000 square meters, around 125 times larger than the old one. And around 700 equipments are running simultaneously here to produce all the parts needed for your car. Today, the production of auto parts has become a key pillar for the local economy. German companies now have more reasons to stay here, from a German-style town to the city's vocational education system that trains more than 10,000 skilled workers locally.
More than 560 German enterprises have settled in Taicang since the first one in 1993. It takes 14 years to develop from the first to 100th, but it just takes 2 years from our 400th to 500th German enterprises.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz visited China in February this year, leading a large delegation with almost 30 leading German firms. Enterprises from both sides inked over 10 business agreements in sectors including automobiles, machinery, and energy. And 3 projects are in Taicang, including a zero-carbon park that will focus on green transition of enterprises. China has once again become Germany's most important trading partner in 2025. And German enterprises' investment into China has hit a record high since 2021.
That was Ubin in Taicang, Jiangsu Province. In Suzhou, a new approach to foreign trade is empowering small businesses, and now even the smallest, most fragmented exports can thrive thanks to a one-stop service platform that makes global reach easier. Yu Boakun has a story.
With just a few clicks, Yang finalizes a $1,000 export order, a shipment bound for Africa arriving in just days. Yang runs a small hardware business in Changshu, Suzhou, exporting to African markets. Sourcing products isn't a problem. The real hurdles come after.
We buy mostly from local markets, so we often lack timely invoices. That makes compliant export difficult and getting paid even harder.
To overcome the problems, Yang now uses a platform that handles all export paperwork and procedures behind the scenes.
The process takes me 1 minute. After that, everything is handled. I just ship to the port. This efficiency gives me a real competitive edge.
The platform, called SCT, is a comprehensive cross-border trade service. It provides small exporters with one-stop support from custom clearance to foreign exchange settlement.
Well, Suzhou is one of the major export hubs. Many small businesses want to go global like Yang, but unlike big exporters, they face challenges. Their shipments are rather small, procedures are complicated, and getting paid can be a headache, and language barriers make it even harder.
Platform head Huang Han says their goal is to lower barriers for small businesses. Sellers simply upload a video of their goods. Once AI verifies it, shipments move straight to the customers.
We've served over 47,000 small businesses, exporting to more than 180 countries and regions. The smallest orders can be just tens of dollars.
Demand is strong, backed by policy support. Suzhou's 15th five-year plan positioned the platform to drive foreign trade innovation.
This year, in just over a month, we've facilitated $350 million in exports. As fragmented exports grow, we aim to extend policy benefits to more small businesses.
Suzhou's model reflects the evolution of China's foreign trade, empowering small businesses to reach global markets easily, boosting export, creating opportunities, and promoting high-quality trade growth.
That was Yu Boakun in Suzhou. Coming up, Chinese diplomacy continues to seek a peaceful solution to issues in the Middle East.
You've been listening to programs from CGTN Radio.
CGTN Radio.
We invite you to visit us online for more audio, pictures, and in-depth reports. At radio.cgtn.com, you can access a wide range of programs and find your favorite news, talk, features, entertainment shows, and podcasts. Hear the difference with CGTN Radio.
At 23 past the hour, the Chinese foreign ministers held separate phone calls with the foreign ministers of Kuwait and Bahrain on the situation in the Gulf region. Wang Yi said China appreciates the consistent calls from Gulf countries for dialogue and negotiation, noting that the highest priority is to achieve a ceasefire in the region as soon as possible. He said the sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity of all countries should be respected, and all attacks on civilians and non-military targets should be condemned. The Chinese foreign minister said China's always stood for settling disputes through political and diplomatic means. China's special envoy on the Middle East issue is currently shuttling through the region for visits. Wang said China will continue to play a constructive role in safeguarding peace and stability in the Gulf region. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi says talks with the United States are no longer on Tehran's agenda. Araghchi emphasizes that Iran's prepared to continue its missile operations for as long as necessary. His remarks signal a firm stance from Tehran against immediate talks with the United States. The comments come after U.S. President Donald Trump recently claimed that the conflict with Iran will end very soon. The Chinese Foreign Ministry says more than 10,000 Chinese travelers stranded in the Middle East have safely returned home. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun says the evacuations were carried out with help from many other parties. Guo says Chinese citizens have returned in a safe and orderly manner from countries including the United Arab Emirates, Oman, and Saudi Arabia. And he also says Chinese embassies and consulates will continue to provide assistance to Chinese nationals in need. More than 70 people from China's Taiwan region stranded in the Middle East have safely arrived at Shanghai Pudong International Airport.
It was a smooth trip due to everyone's effort. Thanks a lot. I want to express my gratitude to our motherland.
I'm very grateful. I almost couldn't come back. I have been stranded for about 5 days.
The embassy was incredibly kind and really helped us out. They got in touch with the airlines and border officials for our tour groups and sorted everything out quickly and smoothly, so we could all return safely.
It's the largest group of Taiwan compatriots to transit through the Chinese mainland for repatriation since the United States and Israel launched attacks on Iran. Their original plan to return via Abu Dhabi was disrupted after several countries closed their airspace and suspended airport operations. With coordination from mainland authorities, the group was rerouted through Istanbul to Shanghai. They took connecting flights to Taipei's Songshan Airport and Taiyuan Airport on Tuesday. Global oil prices have pulled back slightly after climbing to their highest levels since mid-2022. The sharp rise in energy prices has heightened concerns over supply disruptions linked to the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. The Group of Seven signaled it may release emergency reserves, but it's yet to do so. European Economic Commissioner Valdis Dombrovskis says G7 energy ministers will hold more talks to discuss the issue. Owen Fairclough reports.
As the human cost of the US-Israel conflict with Iran continues to climb, so do oil prices. And now US consumers are seeing an immediate impact with the price they pay for gasoline. I'm outside 3 gas stations here in Washington, D.C. This one behind me currently has gasoline at $3.39 a gallon. Now, that's small comfort for consumers that the average price is a few cents above that, but it's even higher in some parts of the US, depending on where you are, with gasoline prices rising by as much as 20% since this conflict broke out. It's a good day if you're selling oil, though. The effect on global stock markets has been dramatic. Wall Street, counterintuitively to some extent, managed to erase early losses to end the day at least in the green. But the big concern still is how much further these oil prices have to go, with the price of crude oil rising to well over $100 a barrel. Earlier in the day, it was a similar picture across other markets. The Nikkei in Japan at 1 point down 7%. There's typically a lag between crude oil prices going up and the price you pay at the pump. But the impact of this conflict has been somewhat immediate, with just within a week or so, these gasoline prices rising dramatically and up to levels that haven't been seen, at least in the US, since the COVID-19 inflation crisis. So, how do world leaders respond to all of this? Well, on Tuesday, G7 finance ministers, that's the world's leading economies that include European nations, Canada, Japan, and the US, are due to talk about how they can respond to this massive price rise. One idea is for them to coordinate and unleash millions of barrels of oil that they hold in reserve onto the markets to try and bring prices down. But it's significant that US President Donald Trump has been downplaying this somewhat, suggesting that the US may not to dip into its own reserves. Trump has also been somewhat ambivalent about the economic pain being inflicted on consumers, saying a few days ago, if prices at the pump rise, well, big deal, they'll go back down once this conflict is over. But remember, the US economy has been resilient so far, but there's still lingering inflation here in the US. And going into this conflict, polling was showing that most voters are unhappy with Trump's handling of the economy. So how he responds to this economic pain has big implications for congressional elections in November. And that's also going to be something on the minds of Republican lawmakers. Trump met with them this Monday. One of the topics of conversation has to be how all this economic pain plays out and the implications for November's congressional elections.
That was Owen Fairclough reporting. At 29 past the hour, Beijing, cloudy overnight. It's down to +2, sunny in 15 on Wednesday. Shanghai is down to 6, then a light rainfall in 15. Chongqing's at 10 overnight, sunny in 23 tomorrow. Nanchung's down to 7, then sunny in 21. Lhasa will be cloudy tonight and tomorrow, a low of +2 and a high of 17. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad's getting a light rainfall in 16 overnight, a high of 22 on Wednesday. Vientiane will see a light rain in 17, then cloudy in 29. Phnom Penh's cloudy tonight and tomorrow, a low of 23 and a high of 34. In Africa, Nairobi is overcast and 27 Wednesday. Kampala is getting moderate rainfall with a low of 18, then a light rain and 27. It's time for a short break. So far this hour, a draft of China's next 5-year plan outlines several economic and social development targets through 2030. China's latest government work report says the country will further broaden market access and open up additional sectors. The Chinese foreign minister has spoken with some of his counterparts in the Gulf region regarding the fighting in Iran. Shane Bigham with you. Stay with us here on the Beijing Hour.
Shh, listen up. Can you hear the heartbeat of our world? It's vibrant and pulsating with the essence of life itself. From the stem of trees to the gurgle of rivers. From the silent strength of mountains to the icy whispers of glaciers. Even the solid ground beneath our feet. And right there, in the midst of all, beats the heart of humanity. What if those other heartbeats were to stop? Would ours keep on ticking?
Ever wondered what's actually going on in Africa through the perspective of an African? How are things really going between China and Africa? What's the narrative of this relationship? Well, get a perspective with China-Africa Talk. Hear from African diplomats, entrepreneurs, academics, Chinese natives, and more. Get on our wavelength every week to find out what's real with China-Africa Talk. Find us on your favorite podcast. We'll see you there.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Tuesday. Still to come. In business, China's recorded robust growth numbers through the first 2 months of the year. In sports, Team China earns a comeback victory in AFC Women's Asian Cup qualifying. In culture and entertainment, a Chinese hit movie is boosting tourism in the Xinjiang region. To contact us, you can email radio@cgtn.com or follow our X account @CGTN Radio. But now at the check of the day's headlines, here's Wang Zihang.
Thank you, Shane. Customs data shows China's foreign trade surged 18.3% in the first 2 months of 2026, marking a robust start to the year. Analysts attribute the strong performance to recovering global demand, policy support, and renewed vitality among smaller businesses. While trade with the United States declined, China's trade with ASEAN and the European Union both grew around 20%. Private enterprises led the growth, recording a nearly 23% increase. Foreign invested and state-owned firms also reported solid gains. Transport Minister Liu Wei has said China will promote the digital and green transition of its transport sector during the 15th five-year plan period. He said the country will promote artificial intelligence in the sector over the next 5 years. Speaking on the sidelines of the annual session of the National Legislature, the minister said the country will work to advance the smart development of highways, ports and shipping. The country will also promote the development of zero-carbon transport corridors and stations as part of efforts to boost low-carbon development in the transport sector. He said China will step up the use of new energy vehicles and vessels during this period. A chief judge of China's top court says the country will further crack down on telecom and online fraud crimes, including cross-border cases. Wang Bin, with the 3rd Criminal Division of the Supreme People's Court, says the move will target those who organize and shelter criminal gangs.
We will also focus on cracking down on criminal groups and their organizers, planners, commanders, and key members, as well as organizations that provide shelter for cross-border telecom fraud and other criminal activities. We will crack down on crimes committed by these groups, such as intentional homicide, intentional injury, and illegal detention. We will also target the illegal recruitment of members for cross-border telecom fraud and other criminal groups, and the acts of organizing or transporting others to illegally cross national borders.
The official adds that they will implement the requirements for strict punishment according to law in terms of conviction, sentencing and property disposal. Chinese courts concluded about 41,000 cases of telecom fraud last year, with 85,000 involved. 16 criminals from 4 major families of criminal groups in northern Myanmar have been sentenced to death. North Korea has slammed the ongoing US-South Korea military exercises, saying they are further destroying the stability of the region. An official with the Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea said the large-scale joint military drill is not a military game, but a provocative and aggressive war rehearsal. Department Director Kim Yo-jong also said the security sphere of North Korea is inviolable and the country will thoroughly defend the security of the Korean peninsula and the region. Israel has deployed more troops and tanks near its border with Lebanon in its fight against Hezbollah. Lebanon was pulled into the conflict after Hezbollah fired rockets at Israel last week. Israel responded with airstrikes and captured several posts in southern Lebanon. Hezbollah has vowed it will not back down, despite the Lebanese government declaring its military activities illegal. Over 500,000 people have been displaced in the fighting. Russian President Vladimir Putin says Moscow remains ready to cooperate with Europe on oil and natural gas supplies if European countries show willingness for long-term cooperation free from political pressure. His remarks come as oil prices surge following US-Israeli attacks on Iran. Putin said the European Union plans additional restrictions starting April the 25th on purchases of Russian energy, aiming to phase out imports completely by 2027. Putin added that Russia is assessing whether to halt energy supplies to Europe and will continue redirecting exports to more attractive markets, including the Asia-Pacific region, while maintaining supplies to partners such as Slovakia and Hungary. And finally, Vietnam is encouraging remote work and fuel-saving measures as tensions in the Middle East drive volatility in global energy markets. Authorities are calling on citizens to limit unnecessary use of private vehicles, share rides, use public transport, and choose bicycles for short trips. People are also encouraged to consider electric and hybrid vehicles to help cut fuel consumption.
Thank you very much. That's Wang Ziheng with headlines. Coming up in business, China's recorded robust growth numbers through the first 2 months of the year.
The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
37 past the hour. In business now, stock markets on the Chinese mainland closed higher on Tuesday. The Shanghai Composite Index was up over 0.6%. The Shenzhen Component Index added 2%. The sectors for co-packaged optics, printed circuit boards, liquid-cooled servers, and commercial aerospace led the gainers. Stocks related to oil, natural gas, coal, and steel suffered major losses. The Hong Kong stock market also ended higher. The Hang Seng Index gained nearly 2.2%. In Japan, the Nikkei was up around 2.9%. China's reported robust growth in trade during the first 2 months. The General Administration of Customs said China's goods trade exceeded 7.7 trillion yuan, roughly $1.1 trillion in January and February. That's up over 18% from a year ago. Exports soared around 19%. Imports surged more than 17%. China's trade with ASEAN, its biggest trading partner, increased around 20%. And trade with the EU also grew around 20%. In terms of trade entities, the private sector saw an annual increase of nearly 23%, with foreign invested companies up by around 15%. For more, Guoyan spoke with Zhou Mi, a senior research fellow at the Chinese Academy of International Trade and Economic Cooperation.
Well, Mr. Zhou, what is your general takeaway from these latest trade figures and the state of the Chinese economy?
Well, we know China is an important country, our export-driven countries in the past. But in the recent years, we are not just focusing on the abilities of the trade. We are having more ability from the domestic area. But I have to say that the trade data is also very important in such a time when we are seeing the fluctuation of the global trade. So from this data, what is most impressing me is that the trade data is growing in a very fast speed, which is far more quicker than last year and the first month of this year. So that represents a very good phenomena for us to have a better relations with our trading partner. I think that is also coming from the results, when China and our trading partners are doing businesses with each other in a better way.
Well, speaking of trade growth, imports and exports each grew in double digits. What are the main factors driving this surge?
Well, the reasons for this kind of surge coming from two sides. The first one is China has more strong abilities in the global trade, no matter from the import to the export. We are really good trading partners with our partners. I think that's because the China's manufacturers and our domestic market are really growing very fast and stable. Well, the second reason is coming from the other side. I mean, the global market. When we're seeing some of the isolation, the protectionisms are really changing the patterns of the global trade. So many countries worry about what they can do with those countries. They speed up their connections with China because they believe there will be more sustainability with the trade of China and in the export and import.
Well, sustainable growth is definitely one of the focus of the economic development. And with total trade exceeding $1.1 trillion, how does this set the tone for China's GDP growth target for the rest of the year?
I think it's very encouraging, as we know that China has set the target of the GDP this year for 4.5 to 5%. When we have a double digit of growth for the second month of this year, I think it represents a very strong abilities to connecting China with our trading partners. That means that we speed up the dual circulation in a better way. So the GDP is just an indicator. We are not just taking too much about the consideration, but these figures are really give us more confidence that we can deal with uncertainties in a better way, but maybe not that easy way. So we are not just trying to look at the data, the general and the growth of the numbers. We also want to improve the quality. That is our target when we are talking about the relation between the trade and the GDP.
That was Joe Mee talking about China's latest foreign trade figures. The property market in Shanghai is heating up, driven by the city's policy package released last month. The new policy aims to ease home buying restrictions in the city and boost buyer confidence. Over the past weekend, sales centers saw a surge in visitors. Fan Jiale is a general manager of an agency in Baoshan district. He says buyer interest in property viewings are rising sharply.
Consultations at our stores are up 30 to 40%. As migrant workers return to the city, viewing numbers have also increased by 20 to 40%.
In the first week of March, new home registrations in Shanghai reached over 2,300 units, and that was up 10%. The governor of Hainan province says more foreign companies are investing after the Hainan Free Trade Port started special customs operations in December. Liu Xiaoming also said that duty-free imports and tourist numbers are rising fast. The governor told the China Daily newspaper that Hainan's fully demonstrated the vitality and potential of its high-level opening up. Zero-tariff imports during the Spring Festival holiday reached nearly 49 million yuan, roughly $7 million. In the first 2 months since operations began, the value of imports and exports at local customs ports grew 9%. The number of new foreign invested firms grew over 45%. Visa-free foreign arrivals jumped over 62%. Hainan now connects global markets with China's economy. It aims to build world-class industries in many sectors, including green energy and digital trade. China's express delivery sector is off to a strong start this year. The State Post Bureau says the January-February development index rose 1.5%, hitting 374.1. The Spring Festival holiday and government coupons fueled that growth. Daily deliveries averaged over 590 million items in January. The number jumped to 670 million in the first week of the Spring Festival travel rush. Strong demand for fresh goods, fresh foods, gifts, and electronics drove the boom, and companies also improved their services with new technology and business models. Brazil is increasingly becoming a top supplier for China's fast-growing coffee market. As Chinese consumers develop a taste for higher quality brews, Brazilian farmers and exporters are adapting their production and logistics to meet this surging demand. Paulo Cabral reports.
After a successful harvest last year, the third largest on record, coffee plantations in Brazil are now being cultivated for the beans, still green, for the next harvest in the coming months. This fourth-generation farmer says Chinese consumer, historically tea drinkers, began drinking coffee in higher volumes a couple of decades ago and more recently have developed a taste for higher quality products.
There has been a shift in consumption patterns, especially among younger people in China, which has made this market very promising. China has moved from being a small consumer of low-quality coffee to becoming one of the world's biggest potential markets for high-quality coffee.
Perfecting the taste and varieties of coffee is a high-tech and highly specialized business involving the entire production chain, starting with a careful selection of the plants that will shape the flavor of the final product. Harvested, tested, packed and labeled, the coffee is ready to begin its journey to different parts of the world. Unlike less expensive grains such as soy or corn shipped in bulk, specialty coffee must be carefully packed and transported in containers. To reach the Chinese market, Brazilian coffee has to travel halfway around the world, and the strait between Brazil and China has grown. Efforts have been made to make that long journey more efficient and cost-effective, with more shipping routes and fewer bureaucratic hurdles. This major customs broker, who handles about 10% of Brazil's coffee exports, says the time needed to obtain export licenses for shipments to China has already dropped from years to months, but says more still needs to be done to take full advantage of the expanding trade.
Expectations are high for Brazil, not only for coffee but for many other products. But I believe the bureaucratic process still needs to become faster, a step beyond what has already been done, so approvals can come more quickly and we can create strong business opportunities in the future.
As coffee consumption continues to grow in China, Brazilian farmers and exporters are positioning themselves to supply what's quickly becoming one of the world's most dynamic coffee markets. That was Paulo Cabral reporting. China started selling its first treasury bonds of 2026 on Tuesday. The sales included two types and will run until March 19th. One's a 3-year bond paying over 1.6% interest, and the other's a 5-year bond paying 1.7%. The government plans to sell 15 billion yuan of each. Individual investors can purchase the bonds with a minimum investment of only 100 yuan. The maximum purchase limit is 1 million yuan for each tranche. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in sports, Team China earns a comeback victory in AFC Women's Asian Cup qualifying.
Sideline Story brings you all things sports related. The hottest topics, latest events, juiciest stories, all with a very personal take. Subscribe to Sideline Story Podcast for heated sports discussions covering events that are happening in China and around the world.
47 past now, turning to sports. Here's Yang Guang.
Thank you, Shane. In football, China has come from behind to beat North Korea 2-1, sealing top spot in Group B at AFC Women's Asian Cup. North Korea opened the scoring in the 32nd minute, but the defending champions equalized just 2 minutes later and completed the comeback after halftime when Wang Shuan found the net after video review confirmed the goal. Wang says she has struggled to return to form.
I've been through a lot with injuries, and my form has been all over the place. I'm just not as sharp or as consistent in some areas as I was before. That puts a ton of pressure on me. But I really want to go out there and prove myself again, and prove that I still belong on this team.
Head coach Ante Milicic says the team must stay focused one match at a time.
We have to respect every opponent that we play and ultimately make sure that we focus on ourselves and keep going the way we've been working, which is game by game. We can't look too far ahead, and I believe that if we can maintain calmness in the group, that we have a good chance of putting on a good performance again in our next game.
China will face the Group C runner-up in the quarterfinals on Saturday. In English football, West Ham United completed the quarter-final lineup of the FA Cup after beating Brentford in a penalty shootout. The match ended 2-2 after extra time, with the Hammers now set to host Leeds United for a place in the semi-finals on April the 4th. In the UEFA Champions League round of 16, Newcastle United will face a major test against the Spanish giants FC Barcelona. Manager Eddie Howe has urged his players to deliver what he calls the performance of a lifetime in what could be the biggest game in the club's history.
We're always trying to find new ways to improve and to evolve and to help the team. I think the players have taken that workload on and the consistency of it really well. We're going to need a big physical effort tomorrow. It's another short turnaround after a really big game against Manchester City where we had a lot of running to do. So it wasn't, again, ideal preparation for this one, but no excuses. The players will be ready.
The Magpies are seeking revenge after losing the earlier meeting between the two sides in September. Five-time European champions Barcelona, coached by Hansi Flick, currently sits top of La Liga. Bayern Munich coach Vincent Kompany says a decision on Hurricanes' fitness for Tuesday's Champions League match against Atlanta will be made just before kickoff. Kane trained on Monday after missing Friday's 4-1 Bundesliga win over Borussia Mönchengladbach with a calf injury. Niklas Jackson started in his place in the squad as Bayern continued its push for the German title. The England captain travelled with the squad to Italy, and his movement during training didn't appear to be affected. However, Kompany remains cautious.
Und dann Harry Kane hat heute
Harry Kane had a very good training session today, and we must decide what's best for tomorrow. But we want to wait and see tomorrow morning how he's come through it. It's important for us that he's here and in the squad. We must decide whether he can start or not.
Kane is Bayern's leading scorer this season. The Champions League match is Tuesday in Italy. Bayern is aiming to extend its run of reaching at least the quarterfinals in each of the last 6 seasons. China has named its 12-player roster for the upcoming FIBA Women's Basketball World Cup qualifying tournament, featuring overseas-based centers Han Xu and Li Yueru, along with teenage prospect Zhang Ziyu. The qualifiers run from March the 11th to 17th, with China hosting a group in Wuhan. The team will face Belgium, Brazil, South Sudan, the Czech Republic, and Mali, opening against Mali on Wednesday. European champion Belgium has already secured a place in the World Cup finals, leaving the remaining teams to battle for 3 qualifying spots. And finally, China's Liu Sitong has become the country's most decorated Winter Paralympian after winning bronze in the women's Super G sitting final at Milano Cortina Winter Paralympics. China's flag bearer finished in 1 minute 24.91 seconds, securing her 6th Paralympic medal. Meanwhile, China's wheelchair curling mixed team defeated Norway 11-2 in the round-robin stage, marking their 4th straight win. The matchup echoes the final at the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Paralympics, where China claimed its first gold in the event.
All right, thank you very much. That's Yang Guang with sports. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in culture and entertainment, a Chinese hit movie is boosting tourism in the Xinjiang region.
From north to south, east to west, people in China are chasing their dreams and leaving their mark. Want to know how they beat the odds and made a difference? Footprints brings you the true life stories of their journeys.
At 53 past now, turning to culture and entertainment. A new martial arts blockbuster is putting northwest China in the spotlight. After serving as a key filming location for the hit movie Blades of the Guardians, Karamay in Xinjiang has rolled out a series of tourism incentives, offering discounts and vouchers for visitors. The campaign's luring movie fans to explore the city's desert landscapes, especially the striking Yadan landforms of World Ghost Town, where much of the film was shot. Directed by the legendary action choreographer Yun Wu-ping, the film centers on a dangerous escort mission, delivering the most wanted fugitive to Chang'an, the historic capital of several ancient Chinese dynasties. In San Francisco, massive celebrations have wrapped up for the Chinese New Year festivities. Mark Neal reports.
In the heart of San Francisco, a Year of the Horse celebration like no other. Politicians, city officials, and law enforcement rev up their engines to show support. Dance crews from all walks of life prepare their moves.
I'm a horse. I'm a year horse in the Chinese calendar, so I can say Kong Hei Fa Choi if I said it right. It's just wishing for peace and love and friendship.
San Francisco's Chinese New Year parade is the largest of its kind outside of Asia.
All kinds of festive creatures are in the parade, like these lion dancers. In fact, more than 100 units in this parade that stretches more than 2 kilometers. And the crowd here today expected to hit 200,000 people.
It's magical, especially to be front line.
This is the best parade ever. We got to see Eileen, Daniel, and a dragon in like span of 5 minutes, so we're feeling good tonight.
Daniel is San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie, who in his second year of office has made revitalizing Chinatown one of his key priorities. Eileen is Chinese Olympic gold medalist and San Francisco native Eileen Gu. She's serving as the parade's Grand Marshal.
It's so special for me to be Grand Marshal in the San Francisco Chinese New Year Parade. Growing up in San Francisco, this parade is an institution in and of itself. Really is the beating heart of this time period.
And what do you want to represent?
I think always the Asian community in San Francisco. It's such a special place and it's so vibrant. The streets of Chinatown hold so many memories for myself and for my grandma. And so being able to share that with the community that I grew up in is so special.
Donald Liu, president of San Francisco's Chinese Chamber of Commerce, hopes Gu's appearance will not only boost spirits, but business here too. In fact, Liu estimates the several-week period that includes the Chinese New Year accounts for nearly a third of all Chinatown's business for the entire year.
Although the tariff did affect a lot of merchants, but the turnout was way beyond our expectations. We saw a lot of people coming out today into our street fair. And because of the good weather, and also because of our Grand Marshal, Eileen Gu, we're expecting a huge turnout, probably one of the best in a long time.
The parade involves more than 1,000 volunteers, waves of immersion school children, and performers that have been preparing for months to showcase their talents.
It's always about celebrating our culture. It's about our way of showing resilience in the community. I am very grateful that people recognize that this tradition is not just a Chinatown Chinese tradition, but it's a citywide tradition.
That was Mark Neal reporting from San Francisco. A major conservation project is underway in Chongqing to protect the medium and small-sized grottos at the city's Dazu rock carvings. The project will provide full protection facilities for all 68 of those grottos. It aims to resolve long-standing issues, including inadequate protection and weak management, while establishing a systematic long-term protection system for these remote rural cultural sites. The World Heritage Sites are already seen 2 earlier phases of protection work, which covered 46 medium and small-sized grottos. An animated film produced by 4-time NBA champion Steph Curry is hitting Chinese mainland theaters on Saturday. The player who reshaped basketball with his three-point shot is bringing GOAT, the latest release from Sony Pictures Animation. The story takes place in an all-animal world where creatures, whether predators or prey, live side by side just as humans do. We're at 57 past, Beijing cloudy overnight. It's down to +2. Wednesday is sunny and 15. Shanghai's down to 6, then a light rainfall and 15. Chongqing's down to 10, then sunny and 23. Nanchang 7 overnight, then sunny and 21 degrees. Lhasa will be cloudy tonight and tomorrow, a low of +2, and the high is 17. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad's getting a light rainfall and then a low of 16, a high of 22 tomorrow. Vientiane will see a light rain and 17 overnight, followed by cloudy conditions and 29 degrees Celsius. And that's it for this edition of the Beijing Hour. Making news today, a draft of China's next 5-year plan outlines several economic and social development targets through 2030. And China's latest government work report says the country will further broaden market access and open up additional sectors. On behalf of the staff, this is Shane Bigham in the Chinese capital, hoping you'll join us for the next edition of the Beijing Hour and open a window to the world together.
Find the Beijing Hour at precisely 6 p.m. Beijing time. We meet you on podcast and on air every weekday. The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
He can't live without the Yellow River in his eyes.
The Yellow River is so noble and elegant.
Both my grandpa and dad made a living from the river.
Would you like to move away from the Yellow River?
I don't think I will. I love it so much.
The Yellow River, the second longest river in China, is regarded as a shaping force in the history, economy and culture of northern China. Today, about 100 million people live within its water basin, making up nearly 9% of the country's population. How is climate change felt at its headwaters, and what are the locals doing to cope with it? What are the descendants of the boatmen doing? What has kept some people from leaving their home village by the river, and what has drawn others back? Could the fading fishing community revive in a time of digital transformation? From 2021 to 2024, our reporters visited the upper, middle and lower reaches of the Yellow River, talked to the herders, farmers, boatmen, fishermen and eco-activists who share a close bond with the river, and present their stories in pictures, podcasts and videos, all in our 12-part series, The Yellow River Mosaic, available only on CGTN Radio